Well, hello all, and welcome to another episode of That's It, That's All podcast with Alina. Um, I just want to say thank you so far to all of my listeners, all of my amazing guests. I would like to say thank you to all of my contributors. And then I would like to especially dedicate this episode to my amazing best friend slash sister, April Parker, who is celebrating her birthday here today.
Oh.
So everybody, please, in the comments or whatever, please make sure y'all wish April a happy birthday and show her some birthday love on here today.
Happy birthday, April.
So in today's episode of That's It, That's All podcast, we will be hosting my amazing guest.
Thank you for saying
My
that.
amazing guest.
Oh my God, thank you.
Tabia.
Tabia?
Tabia Mawusi.
Mawusi.
Mawusi. And it sounds
Everyone wants to
just
switch the A and the U. I don't know why.
Mawusi. I am so sorry. Now, from what I have come to know about her is she writes plays. You're a playwright.
Yes.
She is an activist.
Yes.
She is a visionary.
Okay.
She is a songwriter. She does spoken word.
Yes.
She writes short stories,
I do.
articles to help the Black community. She does training manuals and business summaries. Did I get it
That
all?
sounds great.
Did I miss anything?
You did some research.
Did I miss anything?
No, I think you got most of it. I also parent.
And she parents. I don't parent. I don't know nothing about it. I mean, if you was to ask my cousins, if you was to ask my sisters, they would tell you that I'm a parent. But I'd be like, what kids?
Theirs.
That's it. That's all theirs.
Absolutely.
That's it. Now, what does your name mean?
Tabia Mawusi means talent in the hands of God.
Talents in the hands of God.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what made you want to tell the African American story?
It's my story, and they say you should write about what you know most.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a, what I like to say, what is referred to most as African American or Black, because I think when it comes to identity, we've not been able or had the ability to have enough of the correct education to label ourselves or to identify ourselves, So the African American and Black are terms that are used to identify us, but there is a lot of people who, I'm not Black, I'm African American, or I'm not African American, I'm Black. And then there's those that say, I'm not either one of those.
You don't like that term, correct? I mean,
it's not so much that I don't like it. So when it comes to the term Black,
mm-hmm.
it means dead in law. And so when we check a box on the census that says Black, we're identifying and agreeing with the fact in law that we're dead. So I don't like that, because there's colorable law, which really is created to, it's mendacity. Mm-hmm. It's to create lies. It's to deceit, be deceitful, and to trick, and so we have to understand that when it comes to us identifying as Black, we're saying that we're dead. And so if you look at the census and all the categories that you're able to identify as on the census, all the different races, African American, Black, Haitian, Negro, all of those terms, all of that group is the only group that isn't identified as an original person or original people, whereas every other race, their definition states original people. And there's a reason for that. Our sexuality.
We do.
Yeah.
But that's an episode in itself.
That's a whole nother
episode in itself. I mean, it's an episode in itself that I'm willing to have, because we have to talk about it.
Yeah, we do.
We do have to talk about it.
Absolutely.
We do.
I agree with that.
Because it's I'll say this, even though it doesn't have anything to necessarily do with this episode, right? Mm-hmm. But I think that it can tie into this episode.
Absolutely, it has something to do with this episode.
Too many times are we demeaned for just being who we are.
Right.
Instead of just being able to let our light shine in the way of which it should.
Right.
And so when you look at all of that, then it does come with the sexuality piece of it.
Yes.
You know, and not just for us as women, but just also for our counterparts as well.
Yes.
And it's just we don't always get to let our light
shine
in an appropriate, safe space. And I don't like that about our community. I don't like that.
I don't like it either. And there's a lot of different things in our community that I don't like. And so, you know what I'm saying? But that's part of what needs to be mended. you know? And it really plays a big role because it has to do with mental health. I think that most of us who have challenges with our sexuality in any way, even we're not talking about how you identify heterosexual, homosexual, none of that. I'm talking about just being comfortable in our body and how we want to express our sexuality. A lot of us have challenges, and it's all because of what we're thinking.
Yeah,
so
and what we
all
taught,
about mindset.
And it's all about the mindset. And so that's a reason why I do my podcast.
I love it. That's all.
That's all. Because if we can change it, then we can become better in ourselves, and then it actually can help with what the topic is, what today's topic is. But just before I move on to those topics, you spoke about your personal experience of growing up in this skin, right? So I was reading because, I'm sorry, even though she said that I got everything, I did miss a part. You are an author.
Yeah, well, I've published my plays.
Okay, you've published your play, but you can go on, because I looked on Amazon.
Yeah,
and you can
go on there and buy both books.
Okay.
I have 2 books. Both of them are plays. The first play I did was Mendacity, or actually at that time I was saying Mendacity, Lies Left Unspoken.
Okay.
And I would say Mendacity as well, but at the time we were calling it Mendacity, Lies Left Unspoken. And it's a play about a pastor and his wife and these kids they adopted and or were raised in foster care, and all these lies that get exposed and everybody's lives are changed forever.
Okay.
But when I gave it the title, my title was Lies Left Unspoken, but the Holy Spirit wasn't in agreement.
Okay.
So as I was typing the title page, it was like, that's not it. Go find another word for lies. So I went to the source and I put lies in there, and it said Mendacity. And I was like, Tennessee Williams did a play called that. I don't want to do that. And then I literally saw the word jump off the computer screen and like split. And it was Mend a City. The Spirit said, in the city I'm calling you to mend is the ethnicity most often referred to as African American and Black.
Let's go.
And I was like, okay. And what's crazy is Obama just got elected. So, you know, we didn't have racism anymore because we had a Black president.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you know,
no. Who said that?
I'm just saying. That's what they were saying.
Who said that?
That's what they were saying, right? That's what they were saying.
They would have got cussed out that day.
And if anything, to me, it just made the racism come out more because we had a Black president, right? So, but that's what people were telling me when I was pushing that narrative back then. That, oh, well, we have a Black president. We can't really... We can't just focus on Black people.
This is the thing, right? And I don't want to take nothing from Obama's presidency, but technically he's like George Bush and them. Like,
they're all politicians.
No, not even that. Like, that's his cousin somewhere down the line.
Oh.
Like, off his...
They're related?
Yeah, they're related in real life.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
In real life, him and George Bush, the daddy and the son, they're related.
To Obama.
Yeah, to Obama.
Oh, wow. I didn't know
on the mama side, because the mama is
Caucasian.
Okay. Yeah, so on the mama side, his grandfather that raised him is like an uncle or something to the daddy. Yeah, and so, which makes them cousins.
Okay.
So,
yeah. He's just on the other side of the line.
Yeah, say what you want.
Well, I think that when it comes to us as a people, in our history in this country, regardless of whether it's Republican or Democrat, none of them, they're all at war with us.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they're all at war with us.
Oh, yeah.
Regardless of how they mask it with the liberal agenda, they're still they're all at war with us.
I agree.
And until reparations come out, definitely feel like we're still at war.
Yeah, and it's the question of when, but see, that's another episode.
Right, that's another episode.
See, that's another episode.
I just think when it comes to reparations, how do you measure? How do you measure what they owe us? How do you measure that? How do you measure what they owe us 400 years?
I guess in the episode that I did, and we can always go back to this episode as well. I did it about did the government. So my last episode was about did the government destroy the Black family?
Oh, wow.
And so we didn't really touch on the reparations part of it. But what I did touch on was how when they started creating TANF and Social Security and just the whole welfare system of it, right? They didn't create it with us in mind, right? And so then once they figured out that they had to give it to us, because not only did you have now our men working in these factories that were in our neighborhoods, and now they're up and eligible for the pensions, or they had a trade and a skill and they had their own businesses, or they were bankers, which is probably why our cities and our towns got burned down, because what other way can we suppress them? Because now we destroy it by fire, then they can't prove that they ever even had any of this.
Because the documents are gone.
Because the documents are gone. And I don't know that anybody ever looks at it that way, but the documents are gone. But the point is that now you have these displaced families, because now you went into our communities and you burned them down because you didn't want us to have this and you didn't want us to have that, but now you have to give it to us. So then they created the no man in the house law. Where when the social workers went to the home, if there was a man in the home, whether it was a husband or a son deemed to be workable at the time, then they cut off your assistance. But the problem is that you actually had some people that were very honest and very integral about their jobs. And so when they did their jobs, they did their jobs. So if it applied to this house, then it applied to this house. So when they would go into the white homes and they had an eligible working body able man in the home to work, okay, well, we're gonna have to cut your assistance off too. So now they got to take that law back, because now it's affecting who they made the law for.
Right. And they've made a lot of laws specific to us.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
The whole freedom of it was lost, because then the 13th Amendment was still set to say, well, if you get caught loitering around these places, then we're going to put you back in. Yeah, so I mean, that's an episode.
That's another episode. We're going to talk about a whole lot of stuff. That's another episode.
This experience for me can go all type of ways for me, because these are the things that I think about in the back of my head. And so when people tell me that the Willie Lynch letters were not real, I beg to
differ.
Yeah.
I'm like, even if I don't know when it originated, I don't know how long ago that it was written, I don't know what the timeline is, and I've heard that it's not real, or that there was no Willie Lynch that actually existed. What is on that paper manifests.
It did.
And there's proof and evidence that it did.
Oh yeah.
So it manifests regardless. Like, the written word is powerful.
Oh yes,
right?
It is.
And
because somebody wrote it.
Right. Somebody wrote it.
Somebody wrote it.
Right.
Even if Willie himself did it, somebody wrote it.
Yeah. And it's very clear that it's real, because it's still, those are the things that are still toxic to our community.
It is.
When it comes, especially when it comes to family. Like, I'm just really grateful that I'm a part of a family where I don't have aunts and uncles that don't talk. I don't have sisters and brothers that don't communicate. I don't have cousins. We might not talk all the time, but I can't say there's one family member who's tore their ass with me to where I'm not going to ever talk to them or give them love or show them appreciation.
Oh, God bless you.
I'm grateful for that, right? And yet I witness it with other people all the time. And it breaks my heart to see it.
In my family, I was taught you treat them with a long wooden handle spoon.
Yeah.
Does the love not stop? But I was always taught to protect. But then recently I was taught a lesson of forgiveness, because you cannot grow anywhere if you're harboring ill will and ill intentions. And so I find myself at a place where I'm not mad, and I may be a little hurt and a little bruised. But I can forgive you. And I can entertain you and forgive you. It's a difference, too. Because it used to be a place where I used to be like,
I can't fake it. I can't even fake it.
Yep.
You don't have to fake it if you change your mind.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You just got to change your mind. Just change the thought that you have so that you don't have to fake it.
Yeah. And so that's where I'm at. And you know what? And that's it. And that's all on that. Okay. So what I do want to ask you is, just because the last week, the type of week that I had, Who is your favorite poet or author?
Oh my goodness. You know what's so crazy? It's like I hate that this is really. I love the Bible.
And listen, I
and,
love the Bible.
and I know it's written by a lot of different people, and I understand that. I'm not religious at all anymore. I'm extremely spiritual, but I have the Word of God in me.
Yes.
You know, it's planted seeds in me that have allowed me to produce and to flourish, right?
Yes.
I got fruit on my tree because of the Word that is in me and the lessons I've learned from reading that Word. So I would say, really, the Bible is my favorite book, and it's poetry.
And you know what I like about the Bible? It has every story you could ever want to hear about this life.
Right.
It's nothing.
Any experience that you're going through, you could probably find something synonymous in that book.
Now, I think that people have taken and made it to what they wanted to fit their own uncomfortability with their own selves, right? But the most of the Bible is definitely God. Like, I know, and I'm with you there.
The Spirit is in the Word.
Yeah.
You know, it's in the Word.
Yeah.
And the thing is we write scripture all the time. I write scripture all the time. Things that it's not me writing. I put my pen to paper and my spirit is moving. You know,
it's not the God me. In you moving across.
So it's the God that I am.
Yes.
We're writing on this page.
Amen.
Right? So I understand that, you know, scripture, whether it's in the Bible or it's something that's written by someone else, if you can read it and connect with that word and it can feed, and you know, they say one plants, one waters, but God gives the increase. If it does any one of those steps for you in your life where you are and you resonate with it, it's scripture. That's how I see the word.
I like it.
I understand the power of the word. I know numbers to understand that 3 is the power of expression, and it's the written word. And if we can get an idea, that's just 1. And then 2 is analyze the idea. Think it through. Analyze it. That's the Spirit. The Spirit is thought. And then you express it, write the vision, make it plain, and when they read it, they will run.
Won't they, though?
Right.
Won't they, though? So I guess I won't say right now, what is your, which poem speaks to you because that was my question for you. Which poem speaks to you the most in your current state? But what I will ask you is, what scripture speaks the most to you right now in your life?
I would say that my biggest affirmation is all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose.
Yeah, I like it.
I don't even remember the address anymore. I don't remember the address anymore, but I think that all things work together for the good of those who are called by the Lord. You know, it all works together. No matter what it looks like today, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. It always is.
In the words of my pastor, you only get to live today. Right. You can relive tomorrow if you want to. Well, he didn't say this, so I'm going to say it in my way, which the way he gave it to me. You can only live for today. Because if you choose to relive tomorrow, then you'll never know what the day holds for you. So what he says to me is, but what my pastor says to me, that's what I got from what he gave to me. But what my pastor always say, today is the best day of your life. It is. No doubt about it. That's what you ask him. You say, "Hey, Pastor, how you doing?" He'd be like, "Best day of my life, no doubt about it." And you can't do nothing but smile because then you got to think about it like, "Well, I done had a bad day. I done had this. Why it's not the best day of my life?" But it's because it's what you make it.
It's what you're in. It's your presence.
It's what you make
it. It's your gift.
It is what you.
I woke up and took in some breath. Like I was still breathing. That was the gift all by itself.
Yes.
You know.
So now that I have got a little insight on you.
Okay.
I want to jump into today's topic.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Absolutely.
All right. So I did theme this episode after you, and it is Mendacity. How do we unite the Black community?
Well, you know, I think that uniting starts with mindset. And so there's 8 clarion calls in the Mendacity movement. And the first clarion call is to the head. And it's for us to realize and identify with the fact that we need to unite, right? Not just unite, but once united, we need to organize and strategize an agenda for ourselves so we know what it is that we're needing and knowing how to go after it, you know? And in terms of uniting, I think that one of the challenges that I find is all of those things in the Willie Lynch letter that calls us to be divisive, we are fully functioning in those things. And we need to set aside our differences. Doesn't matter what God you praise or worship, doesn't matter what tribe you're from, what city, state, or block you're from. I mean, any and every reason for us to be divided, I can find. And I think that if we can learn how to set aside those differences and come together on the fact that we are all melanated people who have a right to, we have human rights that are being violated that we need to focus on to address. We have the magic in us to make that happen. We just need to get on one accord. And I don't think it takes all 40 million of us, as they say. I think there's a whole lot more of us than they say there are, but that's another story.
But you know what? It's interesting because when I did some research, I found out that we are not the minority. And at least moving in the direction of what we're moving in, right?
What do you mean by we are not the minority?
Meaning it's really is more of us than it is of them, right? Mm-hmm. But they suppress it because it is areas in Africa that are undocumented as far as what the actual population number is, and those small little towns around from the top of the continent to the bottom of it, to the left of it, to the right of it, right? So when you only give a centralized number of what those people are, then you start to think like, oh, well, it's not that many of us, right? So they would have us believe that we only make up, like 12 to 14% of the population. But in real actuality, if you start going into other cultures, you'll find Black people in those cultures. That's why if you go over into like India or Pakistan or those Southeast Asia places and stuff like that, you'll see people with our same skin tone, and probably get darker than we get.
We're Aboriginal.
Yeah,
well, our ancestors have been here for millions of years.
But if you let them tell it,
they've only been here for about 6,000. They're a new species or race of people, or whatever. I don't know how to classify that.
If you let them tell it, we're a minority, but we're really
even. I think like globally, I realize that, especially because of the continent of Africa, that they're definitely a minority globally, right? But even in the United States, they say there's 40 million of us, right? Maybe 41 million, right? And 300 million of them, or maybe it's like 298 million, and the rest are Asians and Latinos, right? But I think that in this country, there's way more than 40 million of us.
Which is why we should be way more united, and it should definitely be a priority for us. One of the greatest tactics they ever used against us was division.
Yes.
Black people have been uniquely targeted and attacked because of our common identity as people of an African descent. And yet they don't want to talk about it. That was another thing when I started doing my episode with who you know, Kimberly Bowden, which is who I had on the show. We were talking about how there is no research on generational trauma when it comes to people of African descent in America. But when you go to do the research on it, you'll find everything you want to find on the Holocaust.
Right.
You'll find everything that you want to find on being raped. You'll find everything on different economical traumas that dealt with other communities. But when it comes to ours, there's like no concrete research.
Why do you think that is?
Because the less that you know, the more it's kind of like with the critical race theory stuff, right? How they want to take it all out of the schools, because what the issue is, what I find is that now it's their grandmothers that's still alive and thriving in this society, but it's them that's in these textbooks. It's them that's in this picture.
Right.
They did it. It's very clear that they did it. You did that. I think that it's difficult for them to pick up a book and they have this mixed or biracial grandchild, right? Who looks like us, more like us than them. And then it's like, Grandma, is this you? And then how do you explain to this child that you love, right? That was you.
That was you.
That was you. And I think it becomes a thing of your conscience and what can I not deal with.
That white guilt. Yeah, that white guilt. Yeah. It's the thing is they don't want to admit, they don't want to create anything that is going to allow them to admit the guilt that's going to cause them to have to make reparations.
Yeah.
Like they don't want to do the research. So it's amazing you mentioned that. I'm on the board of a nonprofit organization called Lorraine's Place too. It's a foster care agency. It's run by my best friend. And when I was in Washington for a while, I was going and sitting on the panels with the state and all the other service providers that provide service to children who are in DHSS, I think is how it's there. And so one of the things that I realized is that there are these programs that are called evidence-based practices, right? And they have to utilize these evidence-based practices and take these classes in order to get their children back. And the percentage of white children who go back to their families is about 70%. The percentage of Black children who go back to their families was at 23 or 24%. So that meant that there was a huge discrepancy. And they're trying to understand why. But you have these evidence-based practices that you say, oh, these work. We know they work. They were promising practices where there was an idea, so we tested it, did some research, and so now it's a research-based practice, and that research gave us evidence that it works, so now it's an evidence-based practice. And in order for the state to allow it to be in their system, it had to be evidence-based. Well, tell me, how many Black families were tested in this evidence-based practice? They can't tell you.
Just none were.
They barely had any in the program, and the ones that did were the ones that failed. But because it worked for 70% of the white families, it works.
It works.
But it doesn't work in Black families because the cultures are different.
Well,
so that's why we know why our children don't go back home. The white children do. And not all, But anyway, yeah. They don't have enough. They don't bother to take the time to study us because we're not relevant. That's like when you go to the doctor's office and you step on the scale and they tell you that you should be weighing 120 pounds. And you're like, I would be in a 0 and I don't want to be that little.
No, I don't know. But you know what? I'm learning that I had a nutritionist tell me that the medical community has been advised that they shouldn't be judging us off of our weight anyway. It should be more so geared towards, I forgot exactly what they said, but you have people who will lose inches. Like I'm a person who I will lose inches before the scale will ever move. So really it should be based off of what my hip and my measurements and stuff is. And then I should be guided to how to move my body that way, in that sense of a way. Because the one thing about the scale is you can go on a liquid diet, right? And the scale will move. But the moment I start to gain
water.
But the moment I go to start lifting weights and everything, then I'm building mass, which is heavier. And so they were just saying that if we move more towards European or not the Western stuff that we've been taught, but more towards the Asian or with all of the Eastern stuff, we would actually be a healthier community because we would actually know what our body likes and doesn't like.
Right. Have you heard Dr. Sebi?
I've heard a little bit of Dr. Sebi, but it's so hard to get into him now. And let me tell you why. It's because a lot of people have taken what he has tried to give to us, and then they twisted it and turn. It's kind of like with the Bible. They twisted
the
it.
merchant.
Yeah, they didn't twist it.
They selling his philosophy.
But they're not selling it in the way of he would have naturally probably given it to us. It's kind of like with Steve Jobs, how he didn't want the release of the iPad and the iPod and different things, but yet here we have it. It was technology he didn't want us to have, but yet we have it.
Right.
And so I think that with Dr. Stevie, that they do that to his. Now I do think that you have people that were going to tell the truth and pick up from where he left off, but of course they're no longer.
His videos are amazing, though. If you just can catch them on YouTube, he teaches a lot about what we should and should not be putting in our body. And I'm not sitting here saying I'm all alkaline, but if you need healing, it's a good way to go.
No, I believe in the alkaline healing of it, and I did it, and that's where I kind of fell off the horse with it, is because I had something traumatic happen to me, and then it took me from my own personal journey. But I'm working back towards it now.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's it. And that's all on that.
Okay.
So. What are some antidotes and solutions to make our community more united? How can the Black culture effectively work towards uniting with one another?
So I was a cheerleader in high school. And I remember we would have pep rallies. And we would go out with our school spirit, right? And have our campaign to get everybody to get excited about going to the game. And for me, that's kind of like what the Menda City movement is. It's the spirit moving. Right. And so the idea is, for me, and what I feel that I've been called to do, is for me to cast my net out into the deep to see how many I can catch. And so the play is that marketing tool to go out and throw my net out into the deep, right, and see who we can pull in. And so if we could, well, I always say with Menda City, at the end of the play, it's like, I know that you're doing your own thing, and I know that you're really great at what you do. I also know you feel her heartbeat, or hear her heartbeat, and you hear her calling too. So it's calling out to him and her, and they hear us, him calling too. But anyway, the idea is that whatever it is that you're passionate about, wherever it is, whatever skill set you have, where you have your expertise, whatever it is that you've mastered, do it with the idea and the thought in mind of mending a city. So, I mean, if you are a graphic artist, find a way to use that tool to encourage people to mend and to heal our community. Find things that you can support that's going to help to heal and mend, creating that wonderful art that you do. If you're in agriculture, you're in farming, man, we need to buy up some farmland and start planting some seeds and creating our own grocery stores.
So you would agree that we need economic actions,
absolutely,
to support our community.
Yes, I think that you know who Brian Harris is?
Yes.
Okay, so I used to work with Brian Harris off and on back in the day when he first started with his Black directory, the Black Book Directory, and he would always say, our problem is not social, it's economic. It is. It really is, because every social issue, the answer, it's like in the Bible again, money answers all things. Money is the issue.
So I wrote down a thing about moving our banking out of mega banks into more Black-owned or community development banks and credit unions. How do you feel about that?
So I've been learning some things about banking. And there's two sides to banking, and one side we are not privy to, but we are entitled to. There is public banking, which we all have public bank accounts, but there's a private banking as well. And so at one point I thought that if we could all just unify and get our minds right, we put that call out to not go to the gas station or don't go spend money this weekend as Black people. You know what I mean? When we do those things, right? But if we could all just take all our money out of whatever bank we're in and switch it to a Black-owned bank, or then we'll be okay. But the thing is the Federal Reserve is owned by 13 families, and they not Black. And there's not one bank out there, Black owned or not, that is not connected to that system.
You know what's interesting about one of those families? I want to say it's the Rockefellers, correct?
Yeah. That's the main one.
I love that a lot of people praise Spelman and Morehouse and don't even know how they were started.
Yes, their endowments are Rockefeller. And I'm not sure who the beneficiaries are on those endowments, but I don't think it's us.
Me and my therapist, yesterday, we were having a conversation about how Howard recently had a white summa cum laude that graduated at the top of the class.
Okay.
And I just found that to be interesting, that certain things that were made for us, like i.e. affirmative action and different things allowed, but then we also got into the infiltration of the sororities and fraternities that were just meant for us, and now how they, have these diverse people in it. And I'm by all means join what you feel comfortable with, because some of them have grew up with us, some of them have been our next door neighbors, been our best friend.
Right.
But when does what's for us just be for us? Like why couldn't we have that? And so it made me think about prisons, private prisons, and fossil fuels. Like
you said fossil
fuels. Like we don't have a lot of contributors, but yet down in Texas or Louisiana or Alabama or those different places where you can get oil and different things from, which was predominantly from us.
Right.
We did that, right? Why don't we have we can't even name top?
The crazy thing is when it comes to a lot of rights, when it comes to minerals, there are a lot of people own land, but they don't have the rights to the minerals on that land, right? And that's that colorable law, that trickery I was talking about earlier, right? So they sign away those rights, so without realizing it, and when they buy it, they don't see that title excluded those rights, right?
Correct.
And so even though we may own a lot of land in those areas as people, Black people, a lot of them don't have the rights to the minerals on it. And them prisons, man, they were built for us.
They were. So have you ever heard of the 15% pledge?
Oh.
Okay. So we make up about 15% of the U.S. population. So it's where we're asking businesses to dedicate at least 15% of their shelf space to Black-owned brands.
Oh, wow. I love that. At least 15.
At least 15.
Right? Because I know you go into Walmart and in the hair section, there's one little case, And
it's a cage. And you got to push the button. And you got to push the button. And then you got to wait on somebody to come. And then they got a nasty attitude. Like I don't need this quarantine or whatever.
Right.
The Cantu. That's what it's called. Cantu.
Oh, the Cantu.
Don't come after me, Cantu, for this. I'm just telling you what my experience in Walmart is with your product.
Wow. They lock it up. That's great.
And then they try to tell me that it is, what is the word? And I used to work in loss prevention and can't even, shrinkage.
Shrinkage?
So shrinkage, meaning people steal it and it causes a shrink of it in the store.
Okay.
So they lose money for
people stealing product.
That particular product.
I might have to go get me some of that Cantu. It might be worth like gold or something. I gotta lock it up.
So how do you feel about people joining diversity or inclusion groups at work? Like, do you think that can help unify us?
So I just really had this conversation with someone today, kind of briefly, and he was saying that he felt like the diversity and inclusion was just like social, public, politically correct thing, but it didn't really exist. Like it's not really real. And I think that it's definitely necessary. For us to be able, like my sister is on the board of the Black banking professionals at B of A. She is the only Black African-American Black woman in all of Merrill Lynch on the West Coast. and they're hiring, just so you know. So, and they're looking. I'm putting that out there.
So I actually have two friends that I know right now that does banking. One name is Vershana, which is one of my very good friends, and then my best friend Shamira, which is one of my contributors.
Yeah. She's a financial advisor. I left that part out. She's with Merrill Lynch, so as a financial advisor, she's the only one on the West Coast for Bank of America.
There you go. If you're looking for
it. And they have an association that she's on, and they're working to do good in the community. And I do know that in terms of banking. And I think Bank of America has been trying to do some things, you know. But I think that it's necessary. And I've worked in places where there is no diversity and inclusion or any safe space for us to come together and really have conversations, you know. There'd be like 3 or 4 of us, you know, gathered, and we're like, okay, we got to break this up before they're like, what y'all doing?
So speaking of the workplace, because I do have it on my list for as of where unity falls into it as the workplace. Do you think that as African Americans, sometimes we segregate ourselves in the workplace?
I don't think it's necessarily that we're segregated. I don't like the word segregation in that sense. And that I think segregation is something that is like forced upon you, right? I think that we have an opportunity to unify in that workplace. And sometimes we don't necessarily feel comfortable unifying because it's too many of us coming together, like I just said, right? I think there's only 6 of us in this office, and there's 5 of us standing here right now. We might need to go before they think we have the meeting.
And you know what's funny to me is recently at work, I was driving. Well, I had some incidents happen at work, and I started to think of the poem "We Wear the Mask," and I think was that by Paul Laurence Dunbar? Is that the "We Wear the Mask"?
We wear the mask.
It's a poem.
I don't think I know that.
So let me look it up really quickly.
I need to hear that. We wear the mask.
Let me get out of here. Let me see if I can find it here really quickly. But while I'm looking for it, it made me think about how my employer told me that if I wanted to advance my career, is that I had to separate myself from certain people. But the people that I hang around at my job, they all look like me. Let's be very clear. Not all of them, but the most of them. So I want to say one of them, she's maybe Hispanic or Puerto Rican or something. But I do know that her children's father is Black. So we gonna call her right on into the family.
Right.
I know that the other girl is Hispanic, and then one of the guys is from Hawaii, and then the other 2 girls, we're Black.
You're all melanated.
We're all melanated. But we do well together. We get our work done together. We encourage each other to get together. Right. Like, we're a real good support system. But the thing about our support system, it just doesn't cover us. It covers anybody who comes in contact with us. So we just not nice to each other because of this.
Right.
We're nice to each other because genuinely,
that's who you are.
That's who we
how
are.
You was raised. You was raised right.
Yeah, that's who we are. Right. And so for me and the guy from Hawaii to be told, well, if you want to move up in this company, you have to, disconnect yourself from these people. But what's interesting is that all of us want to be a supervisor. All of us want to be, one of us want to be a lead. One of us want to be on this. So all of us is looking to move our career forward. So what is it about us that we have to
separate
ourselves from each other?
That's segregation. That's crazy. When it's forced, it's segregation.
So now, then you want to, then it's like you tell me that I have to adjust my attitude, and they tell him he has to tone something down. And why do I have to tone any of this down for me to get a promotion? Why can't my work, which I do excellent work,
right, speak for itself? Right.
But you want me to come to work and still be the same bubbly? Hi, good morning. How are you? But I don't just give it to them. I give it to everybody. I don't because I don't know what you came to work today feeling like. And if you came to work today feeling any type of way, and I know that it's in my place and space to be able to be that one outcome and change to say, you know what, I can have a better day, right? Then I'm gonna do that. But I don't just do it for those.
Well, you're who you are genuinely, right? Like for me, even if I'm feeling like crap for whatever reason, I'm not displaying that to everybody because I don't want someone else to feel like crap just because I do, right? I would rather greet them with a smile and just be who I am genuinely, because feeling like crap is not my genuine nature.
So the poem is by Paul Lawrence Dunbar, and it says, "We wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile. With torn and bleeding hearts we smile, and a mouth marade subtitles. Why should this world be otherwise? And counting all tears and sighs, nigh let them only see us while we wear the mask. We smile, but oh great Christ, our cries to thee from tortured souls arise. We sing, but the clay is veiled beneath our feet and long the mile. But let the world dream otherwise. We wear the mask."
That is so real. That's what she wants you to do. That's what she wants you to do.
And I felt so
Exist in that
defeated.
space.
I've never felt so defeated in my life. Like leaving a place where, me being me.
So let me ask this question. Do you think that, because I think sometimes, right? Again, back to the Bible, God hardened Pharaoh's heart. Right? Sometimes situations happen or occur so that we can be uncomfortable because there's something else for us. Yeah. And it might be that you're in a place where you're ready to grow beyond, and maybe the promotion's not there. It's somewhere else.
And that's how I feel.
Right. I felt that. And that's why you don't even want to go back.
No. And I'm supposed to go back tomorrow. And I had this long conversation with my cousin Tiara on my way here, because me and Tiara, we talk about everything. Okay. And I told her, I said, I just rather take a chance. Right. Take a chance. I just rather take a chance on me. Right. And whatever it's gonna be, it is gonna be, because I don't want to go in there.
That was like a whole lyric. I would rather take a chance on me. Whatever it's gonna be, it's gonna be.
Yeah, I just rather take a chance on me. Right. I don't want to go in there tomorrow and I had a great and I did. I had a great vacation. I don't want to do any of that. I mean, I want to do it with those 7, but I don't want to do it with all of them. I don't want to do it with them. I don't. I ain't even gonna lie. I don't even care if they watching right now. I don't want to do it with none of y'all but them. Yeah. Now them, I do it with. But the rest of y'all, God bless you. I really want to tell you to go to hell, but I ain't gonna do that either. But God bless you. That's what I mean. But I'm just gonna be truthful with myself, because if I allow myself to operate in the negative of what they want me to, then they win, right? They win. Right. But I still got to have my own self-control.
So exactly, I think that another problem, especially when it comes to mental health, is people aren't aware of their actions. They're too busy reacting to pay attention to the choices they're making with their actions. So if we can get to where we're like observing our lives, like we're the fly on the wall watching us in the space we're in, and really making a conscious choice with every word and every action and every movement, versus just moving and talking because there's something we feel like we need to say something. I think if more of us can get there, and that's a level of maturity to that, I think, as well. I think a lot of us are so busy reacting to what's happening, we're not making our choices.
So when it comes to these communities that we have fostered for ourselves, how can we foster unity in the communities? Like, if you had to pinpoint like a top 3 steps to it, what would you say? Because for me, I know it's the accountability part of it, right? Like, I know that part of it, but I guess for me it's a little bit deeper too. Yeah. So what would your top 3? Because I got my top 3, and it.
The crazy thing is that I'm at a point right now where if I had the answer to this, we'd be a lot farther along than we are in this movement, right? I see where the problems lie, but it really comes down to mindset. like for me, it's all mindset. It's everything starts there. And if we could find a way to be consistent in gathering and coming together. And like I was listening to, I go on Clubhouse a lot, so I listen to these rooms all the time. But they were talking about how it starts with the family. Mm-hmm. And then from the family, it moves to the clan.
I'm glad you mentioned family.
And then from the clan, it moves to the tribe. And then from the tribe, all the tribes come together and they form the nation, right? Mm-hmm. And we've come away from that. It's not that's ancestrally, that's what we did. But family was broken. I mean, families were so strong when I was young. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'll be 53 this year, right?
Oh, you would know it.
I look like I'm 25.
You do. Give it to her. Give it to her.
Right now. But anyway, but I'll be 53 this year. So I was born in 69. And when I was growing up, family was very strong in terms of, you know, cousins and nieces and uncles. And everybody was just at the house on Sunday, you know, or holidays or whenever, or just you would just drop in at someone's house and say hi because that's your auntie, you know, and didn't have to call first, you know, didn't feel obligated to call first.
Didn't feel obligated. It was it was welcome though, because grandmas were grandmas. So
but our community has gone for the hills. You know, everyone's moved out and went to the hills. They got that house in the suburbs. They coming up, you know. I think that we went from having a sense of family and community to individuality. And what is it I'm doing? How am I? What? Look at me. Look at what I'm doing now. I went and I got that car. I went and I got that house. I went and I got that job. I went to that university and I got that degree. And now I'm over here. I'm up here.
Yeah.
But everybody else is still left in the hood.
To figure, you know, I was watching this thing on the show on Netflix, and it was the lady that started the Me Too movement, and I can't think of exactly what the name of the show was, but it was like her interviewing different Black women, and one of the Black women, she lives in the jungle in California, so it's kind of where Training Day was shot at. So the whole premises of that, and so she speaks about how she could remember coming outside and looking up to Baldwin Hills at her auntie house. And she said she remembered one day something happened to her, and she remembered looking up and her auntie was looking down. And it's like the auntie didn't do nothing to stop whatever was happening to her. So I guess one of my things, the way that we can foster unity in our community, is to stop letting our children inherit the same things we were giving. No guidance. No resources.
Or resources that aren't real.
Or not tangible. I seen a joke, and I didn't take it as a joke, but I know the way that the person wrote it on Facebook was a joke. And it was like, where is Section 9? Because these old people ain't letting go of Section 8. But it was funny because of how it crossed my mind. It was funny for me to read it in that moment, because I literally thought about like how you do have not my aunties, but some aunties, you know,
somebody's auntie,
still on Section 8.
Still on Section 8 since she was 22, and she's 60 now.
And she's 60. You ain't did nothing in life where you can't get off Section 8.
Right.
And I'm not knocking that, right? But those are the same kids that are me. And I'm not saying that my mom was on Section 8 or anything like that. But these are the examples that I had that made me have to feel like I had to work twice as hard to obtain things, because I didn't want to be on Section 8. I ain't want food stamps. Or the day that I'm blessed to have children, I don't want to have to go. Not saying I wouldn't take it, because all by means I think that it's mine. But if I'm forced to go get food, but I think I should get food stamps now. And I'm 35 and single with no kids. But I feel like I work very hard for food stamps, because when I'm done paying my bills and you telling me that all I got is this $35 to go eat off of, well, okay, let me go get me a protein shake. Wow. You know, let me go get me some fruits and get me some vegetables, because, meat's this, you know, it makes sense where the pork and beans and the hot dogs and all of the things that are not healthy probably to me. right? But that's all I got left to go feed myself with, or where I have to resort back to the old school style of some black eyed peas with some neck bones or some collard greens with some
like can last a few days.
Yeah, something that can stretch, because you want me to still be a functioning adult in this world that you have, or this matrix or mirage, whatever it is that you have created for us. And so it's the no guidance and the no resources, because
lack of knowledge. People perish because of a lack of knowledge. And the thing is that I was talking about being on Clubhouse and listening in on these rooms, and one of the things I've been listening to is the law and the UCC codes and the USC codes and what the law is. And in the law, there is remedy. The law even states that you're not supposed to pay for anything essential. That's a law, but we don't know it. And there's steps you have to take so that you don't have to pay for those essential things, but we're not taught that.
No.
So we don't know it.
No.
So it's lack of knowledge. And
then it's the normalization of murder.
Oh my gosh.
Violence.
I have a poem about
and
that.
Oppressive police behavior. Violence is very normalized in our community. Murder is casual, and death is just expected.
Right.
And so I think once we can foster, because we got to talk. Did you get to talk?
Oh, I think, is you Black in America?
I am. So we're taught at a very young age is to comply.
To be agreeable.
To be agreeable. And the moment you're not agreeable.
Yeah, you're an angry Black woman.
Then
oh my God.
I'm just going to tattoo it on my forehead then.
Right.
It's a big forehead. I think I could get it all on there.
I remember Dr. Umar Johnson. It was January 2nd. I remember this. We were coming into 2020, maybe 2017. Anyway, he was here. And he was talking at Bobby, Raw Remedies, where I get my hair done, where we did the play. And I was at a concert. And I got a phone call. She's like, Dr. Umar Johnson's about to be here. And back then, I used to listen to him all the time. So she knew I wanted to come see him, because I was going the next day to watch his talk. And I remember saying to him, I feel like, sometimes I feel like I'm crazy. He said, you as a Black woman in America, if you wasn't crazy, I think something was wrong with you.
Okay.
Yeah. I definitely think that we often shape our movements and our actions around white fragility. If it's something that it's going to be too fragile for them to hear, we'll shape our answer in a way that, even though they should hear it the way we want to say it, we'll shape it in a way so that we're not offending their fragileness, because they're so freaking fragile, right? Especially when it comes to our issues. Yeah, I will say that in the play just recently, I had a white guy. His name's Patrick O'Shea, and he's phenomenal. He gets it. Like, he really understands their side and our side, and he sees things from they know what they did to you, and they're trying to act like they didn't do it.
You know what I think it is for me is that they think that we want an apology, right? I don't necessarily need an apology.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think an apology is enough.
I don't necessarily. I think they want us to be like, you have to say you're sorry, and you don't. And I think that's what I come to love about one of my good friends. Her name is Hallie Turkoff, and she is Jewish.
Okay.
And what I love about Hallie is that we can have conversations like this until we blue in the face. And I don't love her no less. You know what I'm saying? Stand in your truth. Stand in your truth, right? Because I'm not asking you for it. Sorry, you don't even got to be my friend, right? But it's the fact that you have a deeper love for me, and you can understand what I've went through, right? And then you hold other people around you accountable, and that's what I love about Hallie will hold everybody around her accountable. No, that ain't right. And you will not treat her as such. And not only does Hallie does it, but her family does it too.
Right.
I remember we went out somewhere, and I can't remember whether it was her birthday or her dad's birthday, and somebody made a comment about her dad's daughters, and her dad was like, "You mean all of my kids?" And then they looked weird at me. They looked. He was like, "Dad, that's my daughter."
I love it.
But he corrected it and he checked it, because you will not treat her any different than what you treat these other people at this table. And so
she's here because she's family.
Yeah.
Right. Adopted or not, adopted child is the same.
I could have easily, but I mean, it's blood juice.
Yeah.
So who's to say that he didn't dip his toe in that pond?
Right.
And then I just was the child that he chose to accept. See, you don't know.
Right.
See, because when you look at me, you don't really
know.
Don't know. You don't know.
You don't know any of us.
You don't know.
Really. You don't know. I mean, I have a really good friend. Her name is Sparkle. You might know of her. She works with, what is it? Go Urban Vegas magazine. And just Go Urban Vegas. And she is Filipino and Black. And I didn't know that for the longest time until she told me that she was half Filipino. I said, I just thought she was just totally just Black girl. I didn't know. I didn't know. I wouldn't have guessed it, although her hair is phenomenal in terms of it's like really long and wavy. It's beautiful. But I've got sisters that I know that are all Black that have hair like that. So I didn't know that she was mixed. I had no clue. You actually remind me of her a little bit.
But that's what I tell people. You look at me, you would never know.
Yeah.
You never know. Especially I lose some weight. I look all type of Asian and Native American and everything in my face. But, I mean, even with Tippy, I don't know if she can hear me. But if you look at Tippy doesn't, she looks like she is
possibly mixed, but I'm not sure.
No, but we'll never know, because when I look at her, I see another Black woman on her
does that. And, for me, I remember growing up, if you had Black in you, you was Black, and then you got a lot of these kids that are mixed race who clearly are mixed Black, and their dad or their mom's Black, but they don't identify as Black at all. That kind of trips me out. Although, let's not use the term Black. They're melanated, however you want to call it. They don't identify with that as a part of their culture because their mom or their dad's family is who they grew up with, and so they weren't really around Black people to have been exposed to that culture, so they don't identify with it. And I get that. I do get that.
No, I agree. So another thing is that a lot of laws, as you have spoke of, have been taken away from us, and I think that they need to recreate opportunity zones for us and let go of single-party strongholds with little incentive to innovation. Because the truth is that 67% of African-American families that lived in the poorest quarter of neighborhoods a generation ago still live there. Today, and over at least 2 generations, compared to only 7% of white families. This cycle of poverty has continued to be significant among us. And so I think that, like you said, we have to, change the narrative.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. We need to be able to recognize that we are the same, especially in the eyes of those who are at war with us.
And that's another thing. What I didn't understand is that if we know that the Constitution was not written with us in mind, right? And why can't we? I mean, I'm not saying everything about the Constitution is wrong, but the parts that we know are wrong. Why aren't we scrapping it? Like, what? Why aren't we doing anything about it? Like, what? How do we mend this?
Right. So. For me, my whole idea or the download I have regarding Menda City is that we are in a position as spiritual beings having a human experience of being on one accord and finding resolutions to the problems that we're dealing with socially and economically. But it does take us to really unify so that we can organize this agenda and then execute a strategy, and getting people to really come together to have those discussions and then create actionable steps so that we can move. That's the biggest challenge that I find. And I would say also that resources are a big challenge because everything comes down to marketability. And it takes resources to really actively market something. So this whole idea of mending a city, I think that there are thousands and thousands and thousands, if not millions of us who are in the vein of really wanting us to mend, that really want us to unite. I hear people talk about us uniting all the time, but where do we begin to unite, separate from the system that's in place for us? And that's like, we can unite when it comes to going to the polls and electing people and getting them in office, and it starts locally, and I'm all down for, those local elections and being a part of them to get people in office that can help to, create the laws that affect us, especially daily in our lives. However, we're in a system that's at war with us. Mm-hmm. So how do we come together and unify outside of that system?
I think it comes through the strength and the prosperity and communication within ourselves, and then being effectively able to communicate with each other. I think that we have to change the conversation, because the conversation can be way deeper than what not to do when the police stop us, but knowing the law, knowing the law. See, you can have the conversation all day, but until we actually start teaching the law, I don't know that it's going to be beneficial to us in this generation or generations to come. Mm-hmm. I think that we've got to a complacent, scared place where we can conform. We have let them tell us, well, so many of you have gone to college, or so many of you have done this, and so therefore you had a fair chance, right? But what about the kids that didn't want to go to college, where they really wanted to learn a trade, but you've taken vocational schools away?
Schools, right? And you say, we gave you that. We gave you that, you got your chance. The playing field is not level.
It's not.
And it hasn't been for 400 years. And how do they can't, they don't know how to make it level, right? They don't know how to tally up what's owed. If we did a forensic study of all the businesses that are multi-billion-dollar institutions today, they all got their start enslaving our ancestors, right? Most of them they enslaved in their own land. They didn't bring them over here from Africa. I'm not saying that the African slave trade didn't happen. Clearly it did. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of our ancestors who were already here, who were enslaved in their own land. And that's a narrative that most people don't hear and no one really wants to talk about. But this is our land. We're not all from the continent of Africa. Yes, we are all over. Like, this whole world was covered with melanated people. Way before Columbus got in a boat with a black man who was a Moor that brought him to America, so they could do commerce here.
It's funny, I always make the joke, is that I am part of the tribe that migrated up and came around and then came across the Bering Strait.
Okay. Wow.
But when I tell people that, they look at me like, what? And then most people are like, well, what is the Bering Strait? Where that's the part that was connected over to India,
right? That
connected to Alaska, and it was a long piece of ice that you could walk across. I said, so I'm not saying we didn't come from Africa, because, it all traces back to it. But I feel like, I don't know where I started at and where my ancestors started at, but I feel that way. Like, I feel like I started, wherever I came from, started somewhere in Africa and migrated up around and came across the Bering Strait.
Okay.
And you can't tell me that they didn't. Yeah. I got a way to prove it.
Yeah. It's that Akasha record you got. Yeah. It's that memory that you have that's innate in you, right? Like, I recently found out that there are pyramids in the Grand Canyon. One is the Pyramid of Isis. And it's forbidden. You can't fly over it. You can't walk to it. It's forbidden land. Completely forbidden. You can't go anywhere near it because they don't want us to know that it's there. But it's there. There's several. So Tennessee has a city called Memphis. Could this have been Egypt? And they just restructured the map to make us think differently?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because there's a whole lot of pyramids in the United States.
Well, that's the thing.
They don't want us to know about.
Well, that's the thing. You know that Africa can be found in every continent.
Yeah.
Pieces of Africa.
Yeah.
Itself.
The history of the people who are labeled African.
And I read that today, and I don't know where I read that at. But I was looking up interesting facts because somebody asked me to give them an interesting fact.
Okay.
But Africa can be found on every single continent.
Right. So back in 1776, there was a, I think it was 1776. No, it was before that, because 1776 is when we got there's a Treaty of Peace and Friendship that was signed by the Sultan of Morocco, which gave permission to the United States of America, or just the United States maybe at that time, to do commerce on this continent. Because at that time, this was Northwest and Southwest Mexican, not North and South America. That's what it was called. And then there's a letter that George Washington wrote after the war in 17, when we got our liberty from the British. After that war, Revolutionary War, George Washington was elected into office in April of 1778 or 79. And then in December of 1779, he wrote a letter to the Sultan of Morocco, begging him not to come and attack them, and letting him know that we are still operating in good faith and in service to you. This is a black man. Because this was his land.
I can believe that.
It's George. I read it the other day. It might still be on my thing. George Washington.
You know why I can believe that? Because look at different states now that, like California, where you got them getting ready to go ahead and give reparations, but what they're starting to do is give back land that naturally belonged to melanated people.
Absolutely.
Like Manhattan Beach, for example.
Yeah. Right.
They're giving it back because it belonged to them.
Yeah, there's some other, I think it's Virginia, and I think South Carolina. There's a couple of states on the East Coast that have passed laws that if you can trace your ancestry back to a specific landmass, you can claim title.
That would be interesting. Because I'm into the genealogy and stuff like that, like especially of my family. And, I mean, and I would love to see it go back to some other people's family. So anybody looking to do genealogy and you need some help on it, reach out to me because I'm actually very, very good at it. I've been doing it since the 10th grade by way of one of my teachers. I think her name was Miss Smith. So she started me on that path. Okay. And I found some interesting things out about my family. Some very interesting things. I
know my mom's been doing Ancestry.com and looking up some things about our family.
You'll be surprised what you find.
Yeah, and I'm going to hit you up on that because I want to know more.
I have a cousin, Nedra, and I don't know if it's just Nedra or maybe it's Lynn or maybe it's all of them. Maybe they did it collectively together. But I know, like, on my dad's side of the family, like, they gave me a lot of pertinent information about that side, and it made me actually feel a little bit better about who I was. Just to be able to look at some pictures and some people to be like, oh, Oh, that's who I look like.
Okay, right.
Oh, that's where the nose came from, or that's where the high cheekbones came from, or that's where, it gave me a sense of completion. So I definitely recommend anybody who
I think genealogy is important. Like I said, I'm on Clubhouse a lot, and there's a group who are Ameri Indians. They're American Indians, and they all look black in their ancestry. Everyone's melanated, and their origins are here, and they've got documentation of it. Yeah. Their family was not slaves. They were not enslaved, and they were here before they came for thousands of years.
I can believe it. Okay. So where can we find you performing at? Like, if we wanted to follow you, find you, support you, where
the best place to support me is goes to MendacityOfficial on both Facebook and Instagram, or you can go to Tabia Mawusi on Facebook. I think I have an Instagram too, but I never use it. I have people who handle the Menda City page.
Okay.
They might be working on mine too. I don't know. But I would say when it comes to performing, I really haven't. I might pop up at an open mic that someone I know might be hosting and perform, but I haven't really done much performing. Although I do want to do my first play again soon. So I'm looking to meet with China Hudson. She's over at the West Las Vegas Library Theater and see if I can get on their calendar to do some of our plays there. Okay. We are meeting every Monday. I will put out some information, let you know where. We were meeting every Monday at the Truth Spot. It's owned by Rel, but I think he's looking for another location. So until he finds that location, I'll find out where the address is that we're going to be meeting. We haven't set in stone where that is, but you'll find the information on our Facebook page. And we really want more people to come. I mean, my cast is very motivated and inspired by the clarion calls, and they all have ones that they want to answer and address. And if you don't mind, I'd really like to share those real quick.
Yes.
Okay, so the first clarion call is to the head. So it's for us to come into agreement that we need to mend a city. In the city we're called to mend is the ethnicity most often referred to as African American and Black. And the idea is for us to get on one accord, to unify, to strategize, and to organize an agenda that allows us to heal. And then the second one is to the arms. So it's all body parts. So it's kind of like after the body of Christ, right?
Okay.
So the arms are our influence. It's what we use to reach out to people, right? So it's all about our influence. Influence can be finances, influence can be social influence, but your influence, and whether you're using your influence for, are you using your influence to support Black businesses? Are you using your influence to bring people into the movement? And how are you managing your finances? Because your finances are your influence as well. And so maybe correcting your status, getting into private, being a private individual, creating a trust, that type of stuff would fall into that. Where you're banking and how you're banking. Are you banking publicly? Are you banking privately? And knowing the difference and learning the difference. Those are things that we would be addressing. People who have expertise and passion about those things, we're encouraging you to answer that call. Everyone has to answer the first call. Okay, and then the idea is that for each call where people are effectively moving, they come up with solutions to share with everyone so that whatever that calling is addressing, they can take action even if they're not that expert in it, right? So the third clarion call is to the legs. Mm-hmm. The legs are what we stand on. So that means family. It's our support system, right? It's that thing that carries us. It's family. So it's all about family. So focus on family. And when we focus on family, we're looking at the foster care system, and we're looking at the education system and the foster care and school to prison pipelines, mass incarceration of our men and women, mental health, family counseling, that type of thing. Also creating wills, estates, and trusts that deals with family as well. So that's the third one, the legs. The fourth is the body. And that is all about what are we eating and putting into our bodies, as well as what are we using in terms of medication. There's a whole lot of toxic things that the FDA approves for us to put in our bodies. And there's a lot of things that you know, the typical American diet really isn't for us as a people, as melanated beings. A lot of things that we're putting into our system as energy, our bodies reject. So we need to really be educated and learn about those things. It comes down to farming and agriculture. So anyone, like I said, farmers, we need farmers. And there's a Black Farm Bill of 2021, which grants land to Black people as long as you identify as Black or African American or have a ancestor, a parent who identifies as African American, you can qualify, especially if your family has a history of farming, then it's easier to qualify. If you don't, then you need to be in school or agree to go to school so that you can learn. But if you are a Black veteran, all Black veterans, regardless of whether or not they have an ancestor or history of farming in their family, can get free land. It's literally granted to you. So that's the Black Farm Bill of 2021. If you're interested in farming, look into that. And we all need to get back to having a relationship with the land.
Yes.
So that's 4. 5 is the feet. And the feet is what we use to run the race. And as Dr. Claude Anderson says, he wrote, what is that book? Oh my God, please forgive me. Powernomics. Powernomics, I think that's what it's called. Powernomics by Dr. Claude Anderson, but he talks about economics. And he says that racism is a team sport, and we don't have our team together to play the game. We need to get our team together to play the game. So 5 deals with political strategies, political science, the organizing of the agenda, and the actionable movement within the law and legislation of the government, and then within ourselves in our own nation or community.
You know what? He has a book called Black Labor, White Wealth.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
So he's a real well-known Black economics guy.
He was on the Clinton. Yeah,
I was about to say I've heard. I'm a
He's very knowledgeable. Definitely one of the elders that we need to tap into and get a clear understanding of the lessons that he's teaching. And it's Powernomics talks about us being the bottom, the bottom social class, like, and it's intentional. It's intentional. So that's 5, getting our feet together, running a race. 6 is the call to the hands, and so the hands are what we use to create, it's what we use to mold, what we use to write, what we use to hammer, right? So the hands are all about producing and creating. So it's a call to entrepreneurs, to business owners. It deals with business, commerce, education, environment, even technology, AI, all of that stuff, right? And then, so if you're passionate about those things, do it with the idea of mending a city, right? And then clarion call number 7 is to the soul. And the reason why it's the clarion call to the soul deals with home ownership. And so I'm a spiritual being and inhabiting a human body that is housed, my soul is housed in this body, and this body needs a place to rest, so it needs a home. Everybody needs a home. It's the American dream is home ownership, right? So I infiltrated the mortgage system. I am a mortgage loan originator. I do loans. I decided to go that route instead of becoming a realtor because I felt like I needed to know what the money do. I really wanted to know what the money do. What does it really take financially to buy a home? And I would say that, yes, we definitely have a history of racism, systemic racism in the housing industry. Racism is a national housing crisis. Absolutely, I agree with that. But I think that a lot of fear is attached to people stepping out in faith to become homeowners. They just don't think it's something they're ever going to be able to do, so they never even try. And I want to help people overcome that. So I have a part of the nonprofit called Be Home, which is Black Home Ownership Matters Education. And so I do workshops or seminars twice a week. I kind of haven't been doing it lately because I had a busy schedule doing the play, but I'll be getting back to that in August. Doing those classes twice a week where people can come on. The first class literally takes you through the 20 steps to homeownership, from application to closing, to you getting the keys to your front door. And then the second class is more of an interpersonal look at what homeownership means to you on a personal level, what it means for you, what it means for your family, what it means to your community, and what does your occupational purpose have to do with that. Because regardless of how we want to see it, no, you cannot work at McDonald's, unfortunately, making minimum wage and qualify to buy a home that is livable. Unfortunately, that's just fact. So what are you doing for yourself so that you can find a career that's going to enable you to become a homeowner? I think that's important for a lot of people to deal with or to identify with. And then the eighth clarion call is to the spirit. And it's the resilience of our spirit to survive at all costs. It allows us to still be here today, regardless of what has been done to us and the traumas that we've experienced and our ancestors have been through. And so in that, there's this vision to create communities, cities, townships. I think there's a town in Atlanta called Friendship, and it's a bunch of African-American, Black, melanated people who came together and bought some acres and created their own town. And I think that's definitely something that needs to be done all across the states. Where for me in the vision for Menda City, I don't know, we get 500 acres, 1,000 acres. I don't know how many acres we need, but we need to buy up some acres, get some farming, get some manufacturing, build some schools, build some houses. So communities like a village. I remember a gentleman I met, he was from Nigeria. And where he lived, in the village that he grew up in, he left and went to the city. But if he was hungry, he knew he could go to the village and eat anytime he wanted to. And he didn't have to spend the time. He knew he could go to the village and sleep because anyone in that village would let him come and stay with them. So we need to create that type of a space where we have a village that, yeah, you can leave the village, go to the city, make it do what it do, get that bag, you know? But if you ever need to come home, this is your village right here to come home to.
It's the point of being
That's what we're missing.
It is.
Yeah.
And so we do need all of those things to unite. As you were speaking, I know you can't see it, but my heart was bursting with joy.
Awesome.
I don't think that this happened by chance. I do believe that this was fate. I'm so very ever and grateful for you to come and sit on my podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Have this conversation with me. I definitely want to support you in any way that I can going forward. I remember when we first talked and I said, I think you started it and you was like, well, people want you to pay. I said, listen, I was about to say, I can't pay you to come on this podcast, but anything that I can do to be of a help to you, as you have been a blessing to me, I would love to be able to do it. I do want to end the show with saying a house divided is a house that cannot stand. I want you to ask yourself, why do you think America paints us as the victim and then condemns us for being the victim? And then does this affect how we unite with one another? Unite among people. Uniting with people starts with you. Tell a Black person today, or excuse me, a melanated person today that they are beautiful. Start with kindness to one another, and that's it, and that's all. Tune in for the next episode where we discuss education and mental health with Desiree Bailey of Logan's Learning Lab. Make sure you subscribe to my podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Anchor, Amazon. What else am I on? Apple Podcasts. I'm running them, y'all. Podvein. You can just simply type it in. That's it. That's all. And it should pull up. And if it doesn't, just keep looking. My logo is the phases of the moon with a sunflower. Very significant to my own growth. Also, make sure you subscribe to my page on YouTube. Follow me on social media. That's it. That's all on Instagram. You got any social media again that you want?
Just the Menda City Official on Instagram and MendacityOfficial on Facebook. And if you want to hit me up on Facebook, Tabia Mawusi on Facebook. That's TabiaMawusi.
Well, that is it, and that is our podcast with Alina. Again, thank you so much for tuning in, and again, you all have a very, very, very blessed one.